and I would like to welcome you to the Seidman webinar series on West Michigan businesses. Today, our topic is focuses on Black businesses, and it's about Black business survival and keeping it alive. We have with us our SBDC Regional Director, Ed Garner, who's been with us for almost 4 years as the Regional Director of the West Michigan region of the SBDC. He will serve as the moderator for this panel, and he will introduce all of the panelists. Panelists, thank you for being here. Participants, thanks for tuning in. Ed, I turn it over to you.
I'll just go get started while they're working on the video for me. Welcome, everybody. I'm Ed Garner, our Regional Director, once again, for the Michigan Small Business Development Center. I want to thank you all for being here today for, I think, what's going to be a great panel discussion regarding Black-owned businesses, how they're surviving, how they're keeping the dream alive. We have 3 great panelists today, existing businesses from different industries. That will give you a little bit different perspectives. There we go. Now you can see me. Hello, everybody. That's going to give you a little bit of different perspectives from their standpoint. So I think it'll be an interesting discussion. So before I get the group introduced, though, I kind of want to set the stage and kick this off with a little report that I've been referencing, and it's been referenced a lot over the past several months. So I hold in my hand a report from the National Bureau of Economic Research out of Cambridge, Massachusetts. It's entitled The Impact of COVID-19 on Small Business Owners. And there's a report of the evidence of early stage losses from February to April of last year. In this report, it referenced the tremendous drop in businesses across the country, a 22% drop, 3.3 million businesses closed during that particular time. But in particularly, 41% of African-American businesses were estimated to have closed during that time, the highest of any particular group, 41%. Closely behind that was the Latino-owned businesses at 32%. The women-owned businesses were 25%. So we're going to come back to that number. So I want you to remember that number, that 41% number of Black-owned businesses that closed their doors for whatever reason during that time period, many of which may have opened back up at this particular time. In addition to that, according to the Black Chamber of Commerce, National Black Chamber of Commerce, about 47% still are saying they may not make it throughout the end of the year unless they can get additional financial resources. So today I'm going to bring to you 3 businesses who are surviving. They're in the 59%, so 41% closed, is the 59% that is still here, still pressing forward, and still going and surviving through this pandemic. Not saying that they're all good, but they're still surviving. And we want to find out kind of what they've been doing, what they've been up to, what changes have they made to their business operations to make them afloat. So we'll start off with the panel. We got our 3 panelists. So the first panelist I want to introduce is Jessica Ann Tyson. Jessica Ann Tyson is sort of a serial entrepreneur. She really has 3 businesses going on right now, but the one we brought her in here for today was her restaurant business called the Candied, award-winning restaurant here in Grand Rapids, listed as one of the top 50 businesses to visit in Grand Rapids. Hi, Jessica. How are you doing today?
Hello, everyone. How are you?
Okay, great. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about the Candied?
Sure. So the Candied Yam Delightful Southern Cuisine is a wonderful combination of many years of my experience cooking with my mom in the kitchen. And it's a place where people can come and eat and dine and enjoy themselves regardless who they are, whether they have had experience with Southern cuisine or not. It's putting that South in your mouth and that flavor palette, and just enjoying hospitality, love, centered around Southern cuisine.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jessica. And we're going to love to hear from you about how the restaurant industry is doing during this particular time a little bit later on. Our second panelist is Laura Hopson. She's from the president and CEO of EM Services, kind of a procurement company here. So she's in a different industry here. She's a woman-owned, minority-owned certified business. So she has 2 certifications. We're going to talk about how certifications play into this thing and maybe helping businesses survive today. But I want to welcome up Laura Hopson. Hi, Laura.
Hi, everybody. How are you? I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, great. Why don't you tell the people a little bit about your business?
Oh, absolutely. So EM Services, we are actually in supply chain and the area of procurement or purchasing. So what we are is we are a procurement integrator, and our overall goal is to help the clients that we work with reduce the cost and reduce the complexity of the purchasing of what we call indirect supplies. And if I say PPE, most people know what PPE is now because it's all over the news, right? But we work with a variety of clients across the state of Michigan and actually across the entire country, across multiple segments on when they want to outsource the purchasing of these types of items.
Great, great, and thanks for being here.
Mhm.
Okay, great. Our last panelist is a dual couple. So we got Shatawn and Nadia Brigham. They're the owners of the first Black-owned wine and jazz bar, starting up in the heart of Grand Rapids. They're fairly new. And so the reason I bring them on to today too is because they got that new and fresh perspective of someone trying to start a business up within the past year. So welcome Shatawn, welcome Nadia.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having us.
Great. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about your business?
So Noir Wine and Jazz is a jazz and wine spot where we are just opening up to create space for people to explore, discover wine and jazz. And we pride ourselves on being creating the kind of space where people can feel comfortable and breathe and relax and sort of commune with one another.
Okay, great. Thanks for being here today. And so we're going to go into kind of a series of questions and discussions around kind of 3 areas I kind of framed this. I'm kind of calling them the 3 R's to this thing. First being really where we're at now and trying to survive and things you've been going to. Second area, we'll talk about a little bit about resources and things that you've used over this past year during the pandemic. And then finally, our audience is going to want to hear some recommendations or suggestions from you all about, how you've been keeping afloat, little tricks of the trade, maybe, and things you've been doing to do that or to give back or whatever words wisdoms you want to share. So we're going to kind of go in that particular format. So I kind of want to start off with Shatawn and Nadia. You guys are the newest business is kind of on the scene. And so the question people would ask you is why would you want to start a business during a pandemic? So let's start off with that question of why now? Why now? I know you've been working at this for a little while, so but explain to me why maybe you didn't hold up, why you pressed forward, and why now to start a new business in Grand Rapids?
Well, we've been asked that question a few times, and we always say,
In less polite ways.
yeah, why not, right? Why not? We can always come up with an excuse as to why we shouldn't do something. Well, it was too hot outside. It was too cold outside. The sun just wasn't tilting the right way. I mean, it could be a number of different things. And so for us, we knew that it was risky to start a business during a pandemic, but we believed in ourselves and we believed that we had something that we could offer to the community that people would support. And so we could have paused and we could have just stopped it altogether. But, again, we felt like the time is now to do it. What better way to kind of give people something to look forward to, some sort of enjoyment, some sort of excitement during the pandemic. And so that's why we moved forward with opening Noir Wine and Jazz.
We have 2 analogs, both in wine and jazz, to pull from, right? So in the wine industry, you don't have a lot, I think it's like 2 or 3% of people of color that are in this industry in some way, whether they're labeling wine or making wine. And so we're trailblazing. So we could have said, well, we shouldn't do that industry because, we don't exist in that industry writ large. On the jazz side, jazz was created during the most oppressive period of our country's history and of our people's history. These were enslaved Africans who developed jazz, right? They think about that, and they gave that music to the world, and it totally revolutionized the world. Neither, the folks of color who are entering in the wine space or those who were enslaved and gave the world jazz looked up and said, well, I can't do it now because X is happening. And so we literally took a leap of faith. We weren't given anything that was telling us to stop in terms of spiritual direction. And so we kept pressing forward, and we feel like, we feel confident that what we have, the research shows us what people's spending habits are, and SBDC has been very supportive in helping us to tackle that research. And so we kept moving.
That's fantastic. So the title, once again, of this webinar is Black Business Survival, Keeping the Dream Alive. So let me ask you, was this a dream of yours for a long time, or you just woke up in the middle of the night one day and said, I want to do a jazz and wine bar?
No, it's been a dream for quite some time. So, born and raised in Benton Harbor, Nadia from Chicago, we arrived in Grand Rapids in '95 to attend Grand Valley State. And I remember years ago, right up the street from where we are now, a division in Fulton, it's a shoe and clothing store there now. It was vacant. And I was mentioned to Nadia, and I said, man, it'd be great to have a wine and jazz bar there. Now, mind you, we had just moved here in '95. 18, fresh out of high school on our way to college, didn't have a dime. So even if someone did allow us to utilize the building, how were we going to fund it? But it was just something that, we noticed that didn't exist. And even then we said this would be cool. And so you fast forward to now, that is still with us. So that dream, although we had that dream some years ago, is still stuck with us. And so we said, we want to continue with that and move forward. And so, here we are years later.
And it kind of unfolded over bits and pieces. So my husband has always loved jazz. We've always been intrigued by wine, mostly him, because we were surrounded growing up. I grew up in Benton Harbor, even though I was born in Chicago. We were surrounded by vineyards, but it wasn't culturally accessible to us. Like, it wasn't a thing that was talked about, or even though we knew people who went to the fields and picked berries, and so he's always been intrigued, like, how come our community doesn't have access to wine in that way? And so that's always been an intrigue. And he's always loved jazz. I'm a jazz convert. It took me to go to New Orleans and listen to the story and go to Congo Square and its birthplace to really learn to appreciate it. Mm-hmm. And so this dream sort of unfolded over the years. I actually dreamed about the name GR Noir, I don't know, 5-6 years ago now. And I'm not a dreamer. I'm usually a thinker in my sleep. I woke up, I told my husband, I had this dream about a word. It was GR Noir. He said, what does that mean? I was like, I don't know. And literally we didn't think about it again until we decided to make a shift in our careers. And it came flooding back that this is what this is supposed to be.
Great story. And, you're certainly taking a risk and you're surviving right now. Keep at it. So I want to turn to Jessica. So Jessica, I think the Candied Yam started around 2016, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Yes. So what inspired you to start a restaurant? And how have things been going for you at this time?
Well, the Candied Yam was birthed out of just an idea that at the end of the day, when it was all said and done, that I could provide delicious, delightful Southern cuisine that was made differently in the fact that we don't use any meat in our sides. We use fresh vegetables, no preservatives, things of that nature, which is not typically what our ancestors did. We always used, salt, fat, pork, things of that nature. And so I wanted to do something that was different, that we could eat more often, that was more helpful, it was a risk because sometimes you'll have customers and put all the fat back in my collard greens. And we're like, there's no meat in there, and so then they're like, this might not be the place for me, until they indulge and then they become lovers. But it took a lot of time, effort to develop what that would look like. because I had never done it before. I had owned a successful PR firm, and I was doing it for other companies, other clients in the industry, but never for myself. I saw a building across the street from the PR firm, and it was a fishery that I always went to, and it was closed. And I immediately called my sister, and who is a broker for the past 20 years, and I said, "Hey, I want that building right there. I want it." And she's like, "What are you going to do with that?" I said, "I'm going to put a restaurant in there." And it was literally like boom, boom, boom. And that was it. I didn't think a lot and hard about it because I either believe that I can do something or I believe that I can't. And like Nadia had mentioned, you just have the trust in yourself and the ability that you can, and then that spiritual grounding that there's not anything I can't do. And when I was little with my twin sister, I ate out of trash cans. I couldn't, I had a mother that had a habit, and so we didn't always have fresh food available. So we had to go find food. And so this just speaks to the future, my future, that I'm able to now feed people, feed them healthy food. My forever parents that ended up adopting my sister and I. We always had a garden. We have a 40-acre farm now. We always had a garden. We always had collard greens and fresh vegetables. And so we learned how to cook. And also that community was so important. And anytime that you can do anything to affect community in a positive way, we needed to do that.
Great, that's fantastic. So just I've got to ask you, so the governor, kind of extended the limitations on, brick and mortar places like yours till I believe like mid-March now. It was going to end, and now that's been pushed out. So how's that affecting your business right now?
It stinks. It really stinks. But I can't tell you, if I was the governor, what I would do. There are many people who are afraid of their health. They're afraid of the unknown. And so we do have to keep those individuals safe and ourselves safe. I wish that everyone agreed on everything, but they don't. We don't. It's been hard. It's been extremely hard because every day changes. I could just make an order. We have 5 deliveries of trucks a week in our restaurant. And if I tell you that the week that the order was put in place, that now you can come and eat in the restaurant, out of 750 orders for that week, we had 13 people who decided to dine in, 13 people. So the rest of those were takeout. And that goes to speak to the individuals that just are still not feeling comfortable and feeling safe. And so we had to pivot our business, and we have to make sure that the customers are taken care of. And you have to figure that out the best way that you can, because each business is different and each model may work for someone and may not work for someone else, but we're just trying to figure out what works best for us.
Okay, great. I want you to, you mentioned the word pivot. So we're going to get back to that word pivot. That was like the coin phrase of 2020. You got to pivot, So we want to talk a little bit about that. But before we do that, I want to jump up to Laura. So Laura, I gave that statistic of 41% Black-owned businesses may have had to shut down. This nationally. So I don't know how many that affected in West Michigan, but nationally, up to 41% had to close during that time there. What do you think caused that? I mean, why do you think that percentage is so high compared to other populations?
That's a good question. I was smiling when I was listening to everybody else talk, and then you tell me that statistic, and it hurts, right? The smiles go away, and it's painful to hear. It's very, so I don't know, for whoever's listening, if I could just share that, it is very painful to hear that. Why would that happen? It did not happen to me. And so I cannot say, well, it's this reason, and that reason. I can tell you how I stayed afloat was just access to resources, access to financing, the CARES PPP Act, draw 1, draw 2, right? I was able to secure, there's a Kent County, I'm going to get the names wrong. I don't know if it's recovery or restart. There's a recovery and then there's an MED.
There's a lot of them out there.
There's been many a night, 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm like, oh my gosh, I found it, and I send an email to myself and then I realized I was up at 2 a.m., trying to find money. And so I can only say that kept me afloat, number one. And the other thing that really kept me afloat, and I just trusting my gut, you got to put together a plan, put together a strategy, trust that you know what you're doing and do it, right? You can't get stuck. You can't get paralyzed. You can't stop. My motivation is my kids. I got one going to college next year and I got a 9-year-old. I know I started late, but I don't have any other choice either, so I have to, number one, have to move forward and just finding creative ways to make sure we secure funding and trust your gut that you know what you're doing and implement. So I can't say why the others were not able to succeed, the 41%. I'm just saying for me, those are the things that were able to keep us moving forward.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. So when I first contacted Laura and I gave her the topic, I said, Laura, this is about Black business survival. She kind of chuckled. She said, well, Ed, it's funny that you call me a survivor because
I feel like I was beaten up.
I still worry about things every day. And so kind of, Laura, what's keeping you up these days? What challenges do you still see your face out there, and particularly challenges that you think Black-owned businesses may be facing this time?
My biggest challenge is it hasn't really changed, right? Growth, finding and attracting new customers and keeping them, right? So that's always a challenge. I don't think that's unique to Black-owned businesses or minority businesses, diverse businesses. I think that I have the same challenge that everybody else has. How are we going to continue to move forward? Making sure that my team is content, happy, content, that we have the resources and the knowledge and experience that we need to move forward. That always keeps me not on edge, but I always want to make sure that we have the people available and the resources available to move forward. And those are probably the biggest two things: growth and people in my team. So I'm not quite sure if it's unique to Black-owned businesses or diverse businesses, but those are the two things that kind of keep me up most nights, besides my dog barking at the snowplow.
Okay, great. So let's talk about resources a little bit. So I want to get back to Shatawn and Nadia. What resources did you use? You mentioned the SBDC. Thanks for the shout out. But what other resources did you guys tap into to help get your business going? Financial resources, personal resources, people resources. Tell the audience a little bit.
So I'm gonna help you with our names because they are just a challenge. I know that. So Shatawn and Nadia.
Sean and Nadia. Thank you, Sean and Nadia. Shatawn. Okay.
There you go. We take no offense to people messing up our names because they're just those kinds of names. In terms of resources, we pulled from a lot of resources from our network. We did a lot of research and talking to business owners in our circles nationally, but also locally. We also talked with friends who had opened businesses before or who are business owners currently. We talked with Northern Initiative. They've been a big investor. Our largest investor has been Northern Initiatives. Rindy Capital has been an investor in us. We invested in ourselves, taking resources from our careers, savings from our careers that we've built over time. Our children invested into our business, and we have a small group of family and friends that invested. We too, Laura, have older children. Our son's birthday's today, so he's 29, who went to school with Jessica's son. And then we have a 22-year-old and a 9-year-old as well.
Oh,
So,
okay, there you go.
Absolutely. So we understand. So we had, those financial resources, and we had mentors like Daryl Ross at 40 Acres, Lewis Williams at 40 Acres, Chris Mathis,
Jamel Eddy,
Jamil Robinson. Like, we talked to everybody. One, because we wanted to understand this is a different industry from our career, from our careers. I spent my career in philanthropy. My husband has spent his career in education. And so this is a big pivot for us. And so we wanted to better understand like the nuts and bolts, but also like, how do you put together a business plan? Jamal Ewing at SBDC was amazing for us and helping us to understand and put together our projections. We also launched 2 businesses at the same time. So we also run Brigham Consulting, which is a national consulting firm, international now consulting firm, working to advance racial equity, diversity, and inclusion. And so we understood that realm a little bit better than the wine and jazz realm, but we learned it, and we used every resource. We looked at people from afar and said, "Ooh, that looks like it works," or "Oh, I don't really want to do it that way." And so we humbled ourselves, and we tried to learn, and we continue to call on our networks to help us understand different components that we don't understand. We also use the resource of our staff. Yeah. So our staff are experienced in hospitality and restaurant service, and they have been incredible. Like, we will say to them, like, there are things that you all know because you have this experience that we haven't had. If you see something, or if there's an idea, tell us so that we can make it better. And we've tried to just be open and listen to wherever there's resource.
Okay, great. Do you feel that Black businesses maybe don't take available enough of the resources that's out there, or maybe they don't know about them, or what is the case? We find that sometimes that happens. So once again, the National Black Chamber of Commerce stated that upwards to 68% of Black-owned businesses didn't reach out for assistance during this time.
Because they don't know about it. Like, so there is no doubt, like zero doubt in my mind. Like, I am 100% sure that if it had not been for the networks that we built over the course of our careers, this would not be, right? Because we've pulled from so much of what we've leveraged, and the relationships and the knowledge that we've leveraged, that it made the journey easier. Does that mean it's impossible for other people? No, it's just that they're not connected to the same sources. And I talk to other entrepreneurs, and I make myself available to other entrepreneurs who are like, well, how did you do this? And they've been entrepreneurs longer than I have. And I'm like, well, if you do this and that and the other thing, then that you have access to this, that, and the other thing. And they're like, really? I didn't know anything about that. And so I think it's just, as much as we believe that our channels of communication for our communities are there. And I also think that's why it makes, I can't speak to individual businesses and the choices that they make, but structurally, that's what made us more vulnerable when COVID hit. We were already vulnerable before.
Yeah. And I think that's just it. I mean, we have a misconception that Black people don't want to know, or that there's information out there that somehow we're just not interested in obtaining, which is not true. All entrepreneurs get into business to be successful, regardless of what you do. And so, part of that is understanding what's available, and then what's behind that availability, right? We bail out these big multi-billion-dollar corporations and they get grants, but small businesses get loans, right? And so there's no equity there. And so people are like, you know what? I'm struggling now to keep my doors open, and they want me to take a loan. So now I got to keep my doors open. And on top of that, the government is going to come calling for their loans, right? And so I'd rather just kind of figure it out and stick it out myself. And so I think there's a lot at play there, versus, us just making an assumption that, Black people are not aware or not taking advantage of resources that's available. And of course, in everything that we do, of course, you're going to get people who know and who just don't take advantage. But for the majority, I just have to believe that, we all in this for a reason. And so whatever's available for us, we're going to look into it and try to make sure that it makes sense before we move forward on it. So, yeah, I mean, I just think that that's something we have to write that narrative around, you know, Black people not being interested in, you know, resources that's available.
Great, thank you. So let me jump to access to capital. We often hear that Black businesses have trouble getting access to capital or getting access to the level of capital they need for their particular businesses. So Jessica, I'm gonna drop back down to you and talk a little bit about, you know, your experience in trying to access capital for your businesses that you started. You know, was it easy? Was it hard, you know, to do, or what success or challenges have you had with accessing capital? Jessica, that was for you.
I'm sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. I am really sorry about that. I personally, I own 3 businesses, and I opened one during the pandemic, the Pink Lounge Dry Salt Therapy. And the first business, JPR Group, and this business, I did not, I self-funded my businesses because of the level of success that I was able to have. I did not seek to get anything from anyone or have any set investors. I know though, because I have clients that have different industries or same industries, and they do have access, but limited. Some of that is through education, some of that is finding, and some of that is just not being able to be networking with others, because there is a mentality of the crab in the barrel. We can pretend like it doesn't exist, but it does. They come to me because they believe that I'm going to share the keys to success. And the key really is the idea that you want to do something and that you're passionate about it and you have the aptitude to do it. Not everyone should be doing some of the things that they're doing. And there's some things that others need to be doing that they're not doing. But it's the scariness of starting a business, the entrepreneurial road. It's a long road, and it is not paved with gold, because there is nothing at the end of it. A light at the end of the tunnel is all there is if you work hard and have perseverance for it. But the access to capital, I open those Rolodex like it is nobody's business, even though I have not had to utilize them. I have them in my back pocket. Trust me, if I need them, they're there. But I am willing to help others do what they need to do to live their best dream, because I understand that. And I've seen it so many times over and over and over, where people aren't willing to give them that message, you know, share with them that resource. You know, sometimes people look at you and they say, oh, you own a business of blank. Ooh, you guys are really doing well. Or, ooh, we're just like everyone. Let me put it this way. I'm just like everyone else. I have to work really hard. I have to make sacrifices, and I have to be real with my intent, the authenticity of what it is that I'm looking to achieve out of it. Some people want to open business because they think it's a cool thing or a popular, or, you know, they want to be known, notoriety or something. You got to park all of that stuff for me at the door. It's about grit, and it's about keeping legacy. It's about taking care of individuals. 65% of the people when the pandemic hit that work here at the Candied, 65% of them, this is their second chance job, returning citizens. I hate that term, but they're returning citizens. I did not close my doors specifically for them, because I knew that there was going to be nothing for them, possibly to turn back to where they came from. And they have come so far, and I'm so freaking proud of them. So I put my investment in people. And so knowing that there are business owners who should exist and they need those resources, why wouldn't we do the best that we can to give them all the resources that they need?
Great, thank you for that. So Laura, you've been successful at getting, the PPP1, PPP2, some other financial resources. How difficult was that? How would you describe kind of the lending environment out there? Do you have to be really prepared, or some things that Black-owned businesses need to, better prepare for to tap into some of these financial resources as such?
Prepared, the answer is yes. And again, I will say it's every business, right? So, some of the things, my experience with each of the different first draw, second draw are different because I happen to be at different banks. I will co-sign what everybody has said so far. Network. Who do you know? Who do you know that knows somebody that they know something you don't know? What do you not know? I mean, everything that you can find out from anybody that might be able to help you reach out and gather all of that input. So the reason why I was at two different banks is because I had somebody tell me, don't go to bank X, go to bank Y. It's going to be a different experience. When I listened. But that being said, we have invested here at our company in infrastructure in our accounting system. We happen to use QuickBooks or our ERP system, which is called DataWare, or we're fortunate enough to work with an accounting firm, Manor Casterison. And those types of resources have really allowed me to easily pull reports. So, when you're going for those loans, they're like, okay, do your quarterly P&L, your quarterly cash flow, this, that, and the other. Sometimes people struggle with trying to gather that information. And so, it doesn't always have to be an expensive solution. QuickBooks, it doesn't have to be expensive, or ADP for a payroll does not have to be expensive, but just having those types of tools that allow you to easily pull a report, or there's resources that'll help you create the information and the reports that you need. I did not know from a payroll standpoint what a 940 and a 941 tax thing was, right? I don't know. But the ADP people knew. So I was able to quickly press 3 buttons and download exactly what I needed. So, my only advice would be, maybe take a step back and try and either invest in or find some very low cost tools that are going to help you with the infrastructure of your business. So it's very easy to pull and gather the information that's required to submit for these different types of, I'm going to call them grants. I'm not calling them loans because I am going for that forgiveness like nobody's business. That's going to make it a little bit easier to apply for the grants. I'm calling grants.
Well, there have been grants out there for existing businesses during the COVID-19 grants. The state of Michigan has 3 different programs: Restart Program, Michigan Small Business Relief Program, lastly, the Michigan Small Business Survival Program. Yes. Hopefully some of you guys tapped into that. Kent County, as you mentioned, has had some grant programs as well. There's been some national programs through the NAACP. Beyonce even put up money for grants. After the Super Bowl, even if you watched after the Super Bowl, it was a group called LISC, L-I-S-C. They did an after Super Bowl party and had artists come on. And it was kind of like a fundraiser. I mean, you could donate $10 and they were putting up $10 million on which companies could apply, and they were targeting underserved communities. And so, yeah, you got to keep abreast of this. This is an unusual situation where there has been grants to try to help keep businesses afloat during this time.
And so, don't let it pass by, guys. It's out there. The resources are out there to be had. So please, please, please spend time doing everything you can to take advantage of those. Because one of the things, and I didn't mean to interrupt you, I'm so sorry.
No, jump in.
Things that we say so many times, access to capital, barriers. Guys, it is available. Okay, so do everything that you can to gain access to that and apply for those.
Great advice. So Jessica, you mentioned the word pivot. I want to get back to that. So like I said, pivot seemed to be the phrase word of 2020. Everybody kind of had to revisit their business models, had to figure out different ways of doing businesses. So tell us some of the things you had to do in terms of pivoting to help your business continue.
Yeah, so we started in the space, and we started, I always go where I live. So I could only afford to do one suite, and I put up 6 picnic tables, and you could come in and grab your food to go. And it was so much interest in sitting down to eat. So we kicked out the wall and we assumed the other suite. And so we would have dinner and Motown, or dinner and spoken word or whatever on our stage and inside of our facility. Well, when COVID hit, it was like, what? Screeching halt. And that screeching halt was harsh because, believe it or not, when you have a suite and another suite, you're paying the same amount. So the suite on this side, there was nothing going on still now, COVID, right? And I mentioned that 13 people out of 750 people who dined in that week. So we had to figure out, like, what are we going to do? Because we can't still have a suite and no business in that suite. No one's eating in that suite. And so we decided to start doing community things that would help the community. So having Black businesses come and find out about the resources, and have groups come in so that they could talk to individuals, how you can, our banker and, people like that. How does that PPP work, and registering for PPE and all of those things. And then having different activities for families. So it may only be 4 families, but it's 4 families that are making a stoplight. Morgan Garrett, who invented the stoplight. And so we, had families register to come to learn about Black history and make brownies, stoplight brownies. So just utilizing the space for something different. And so we popped up all the seating and did different seating and, got the sound systems and things of that nature. And so now it's dinner and, a show, so you just have to be creative, and you just have to be willing to think about what works in your industry, the best way that it can work in your industry, so that you don't lose. Because like Laura said, there are resources there. You just have to utilize them. The resource that we use the most is our mind. We use our PR firm because it's the best, but we utilize our PR firm because we're using the same strategies that we give to our clients. And so pivoting is what has to happen. We didn't have a choice. But again, utilizing wisdom, utilizing creativity, utilizing other business models. You just have to keep trying until, it could work and it could not. But one thing we know is we tried it.
Great. So Shatawn, Nadia, what for new business owners out there, what type of shifts that you had to make in trying to get your business open? I'm sure you started out with one plan and then things happened, and then you probably had to make some adjustments along the way. What things did you have to pivot in your business model to make it happen?
Well, we're in a unique situation. We had planned to open April, May of 2020. And then, COVID hit in March. And so our doors weren't open. So we didn't feel what it was like to be open and then have to close. What it allowed us to do was keep our doors closed, but then learn the back end of the business, right? That's when we started talking to other business owners who had been open. What are some of the things you're doing right now to make this, adjustment? We took our time in making sure we understood all of the systems we had in place, from our wine dispensing system to our POS system, to hiring staff, to nailing down our food menu. So it gave us a chance to really look at what all we were looking to include into the space and make sure that everything was together and ready to go. So when we did open the doors, we were all set to go. And so, we just were, uniquely positioned, to.
I think that's a silver lining,
Yeah.
Like, we don't know what running a business outside of COVID is.
Right.
So this is our learning ground. And so we got a lot of time, like Laura was saying, spending with the infrastructure. My husband chose these wine dispensary systems, and they kick out every single ounce of whatever wine that you choose. So we have data that we can report about what we need to be buying. The food system that we chose will let us know what item are people buying so that we can pull and only buy, so that we're only buying what we need for 25% occupancy, right? And the same thing for our POS system. And so we've been able to learn from those systems and pull the data and have the infrastructures in place. The other thing that we hadn't ever thought about was doing curbside. Like it wasn't a part of our thing. It wasn't going to be a part of our website. And so we pivoted there too. And we're still providing curbside, although people aren't accessing it. We're still providing curbside. If people want to drop by and pick up, our website is still taking orders. And so we just pivoted, but we feel we also didn't have access to a lot of the resources that other folks have access to in terms of financial resources, because we weren't yet open. Even though we had spent dollars, we weren't yet open. And so we didn't have that access, but we just tried to pivot and go with the flow of what was happening around us and try not to stress about it.
Yeah, we actually, we opened for curbside the first weekend of December. And we were moving a lot of wine curbside. We had quite a few people, more than we anticipated, sign up for our monthly wine club. And then a handful of people, we found out only a handful of people knew we were doing food. So Nadia posted food shots on our personal Facebook page, and it took off, to where, we were finding ourselves, I was going and placing orders for food like almost every week, because people had no idea that we offered food pairings with the wine. And so that was one of the ways that helped us. And again, the silver lining, without being open inside, that curbside allowed us to get a sense of what it would feel like and what it would look like once we did open our doors. And so, we're kind of seeing what that is like now, because it's keeping us really or extremely busy, with 25% dine in. So it's worked for us, and again, I'm sure at some point down the road, hopefully and prayerfully it's not COVID, but we're going to have to always pivot for something. There's always going to be some changes that's going to happen. And so we're just, learning as we go, and we're trying to, reach out and use those resources and talk to as many people as we can who's been in this industry much longer than we have.
Great. Thanks for that advice, and thanks for sharing your experiences. We have a few minutes left, and I want to turn our attention to all three of you guys, because all three of you guys are kind of, we're four really. You're doers. You certainly are doing it out there, but it seems like you're givers too. So I was looking at some of your profiles and so forth, and say, like, for instance, Laura, you're big into mentoring. Mm-hmm. I want you to touch it based on that. And Jessica, I know you've been doing some giving programs and philanthropy things too. So I want to see if giving part of your strategy of being successful. So Laura, why don't you go first and talk about your mentoring?
Well, thank you for asking about that. For me, I have a business. We're in procurement, right? That sounds so exciting. But really, I just use it it gives me a platform to figure out how I can use what I have and what I know, the people that I know in my network, to help other women-owned and minority-owned businesses grow and flourish. So it's not part of my strategy. It's just part of my personal mission that, I've been put on here and on this earth, and I have certain talents. Well, I hope I do. We'll see, right? How can I, what can I do with that, right? So having a business gives me the opportunity and affords me the means and the platform and the ability to try and share what I know with others. I mean, that's how I got where I am. We all talked about network and resources. I think if there's one common thread and one common theme about what everybody has said today, it's that, you have to really have a network of people that you can go to or find and create to help you and give you knowledge and expertise and different experiences and direction. So if I can do that for another business, another person, a young professional, my kids, right? It's extremely important to me. And I think that that's how, as a society, we're going to be able to move forward and keep the momentum going. We have to find ways to to spread what we know and to give it legs and to share, and so that moving forward, everybody has that ability to move forward. So it's not really a strategy for my company. It's just a personal mission of mine that I'm passionate about, trying to find ways to do that.
Great, thanks for sharing that. So Jessica, tell me about Random Yams of Kindness. Tell us about what that's about.
Well, Random Yams of Kindness is just a play on random acts of kindness, if you will. I believe that each business has its own pulse and its own heartbeat, and it takes on the personality of the owners. If the owners are actively active within the business. There's some companies that, you're just an investor, or, I just invest in this business, so I'm not having a big stake or say. But the 3 businesses that I own 100%, I invest myself, my time, who I am in those, and the Random Yams of Kindness. I'm a giver. I'm going to try to beat God-given, and it's not going to happen, but I'm going to try. I believe in the law of reciprocity. I believe what I put out is going to come back, but I don't give to get, because sometimes it's not a financial you're going to get. Sometimes it's that smile in your heart. Sometimes it's that child that's going to graduate from college. Sometimes it's that individual who's going to come off of drugs and they're going to be able to have a more sustainable life, so they can be the father that they were meant to be to their children. I mean, you invest, which is what giving is. It's just a seed, right? And so you invest so that you can continue to be the bright spot, the light, because not everyone can give. Let me take that back. Everyone can give, but not everyone will. And not everyone will choose to give. So God uses people. I don't know if I can say that, but I'm a woman of faith. God uses people, and we are the people that he uses if we allow him to. And so, like I said, I'm going to try to beat him given, and he is so faithful to me. And I absolutely have fun conversations with him. I'm like, yeah, I thought I was doing something, but you did something bigger. You allowed that person to be able to, that I did this, and then you use that to do da-da-da-da-da for them. And I love it. I really do. And so it is a strategy specifically for me, because I believe that I was put here to do some good things. And coming from a background, not being able to, eat when I wanted to, eating out of a trash can or finding something out of a trash can, to being able to donate food to children, show them how to tend a garden and grow their own green beans and make collard greens and things of that nature. Man, I'll take it as a strategy all day long.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Before we conclude, Jessica, where are you located?
We are located on 44th Street in the Breton Meadows Plaza in a strip mall. It is 2305 44th Street, Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Noir?
35 South 15th Avenue.
Downtown Grand Rapids.
Downtown Grand Rapids, great. We hope that both of you have brick and mortar places, and we hope people will visit your establishments and support what you're doing. You guys are doing great things out there. Laura, people don't really visit your company, I don't think, but if you want to tell where you're located, go ahead.
We're right on Front Street by the river and the 6th Street Bridge. So 678 Front Street.
Great.
Yeah, love it.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing today. This has been great. Thanks for giving us some of your advice and some of your struggles and some of the things that you've been doing to survive, keeping the dream alive. We wish you all success. Dean, thank you. Dean Lawson.
Thanks, Ed. Great job moderating. Thank you for taking the time and for bringing these people together, Ed. And I want to thank Shatawn and Nadia and Jessica and Laura for taking time and talking to our attendees. This was a great webinar. You were all very candid and open about your experiences, your opportunities, your successes, and your challenges. And I think these are the kinds of webinars that really do help the people who tune in to listen and learn. So thanks very much. I really, really appreciate it. For everyone, thanks for being here. We apologize for some of the little technical glitches in the beginning of this webinar, but the slides that we're supposed to show prior to the webinar starting will be included in the video that will be put on our YouTube channel. For those of you that want to go back, or if you know people who weren't able to come, please encourage them to watch this. This was a really good, informative webinar, and I think it was very motivational to get people, to nudge people to follow their dreams and start a business if that's what they want to do. So for our next webinar will be on March 19th, and it's entitled Financial Health of Your Business in the Midst of a Pandemic. And one of our faculty in accounting, Chris Harper, will be the moderator. So we hope some of you will be able to come and share the information with others as well. Thank you again, all of the panelists, and Ed, thank you. We really appreciate your participation and collaboration with the Seidman College of Business. Attendees, thanks. Have a great day, great weekend. It's Friday. Have a great weekend. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.